You're going to get a second chance. And you're going to get the chance to go into the promised land. Here's the question. Will the younger generation learn the lesson of their parents' failure? Will they learn it? Will they learn to trust God? We're going to see that answer in our next period. But one of the most incredible points, and I know in my life, I've visited Israel so many times, and I've taught from this place on the plains of Moab. As I'm looking across the Jordan at Jericho, it's at this point that Moses dies, that Moses is no more. And Moses leaves one last book for Israel. You know what it's called? Deuteronomy. What is Deuteronomy? Deuteronomy means the second law. You know who Deuteronomy is for? That younger generation. That younger generation who even fails on the plains of Moab in getting themselves involved in the book of Numbers with sexual impurity with Baal, the god of Baal, the Canaanite god. And Moses says something very important. Think of Deuteronomy, which is your supplemental book to the book of Numbers here. Think of Deuteronomy as Moses' last speech before they cross over. It's his last speech. And you know what he says in that book? One of the most important things. He delivers what is called the Shema in Hebrew. S-H-E-M-A. S-H-E-M-A. It's called the Shema, chapter 6. He says, I want you to know you're ready to cross over into the land. And he reviews, in Deuteronomy, he reviews all the history of Israel coming out of Egypt. Every step of the way, trusting God or not trusting God. And then he says there's only one way you're going to be able to take that land over there. There are Canaanites in them their hills across the Jordan. Let me tell you about the Canaanites. The Canaanites want your sons and your daughters. The Canaanites worship to Baal. Baal, let me tell you how this goes. Baal is the god son of two primary gods in Canaan, El and Ashtoreth. El and Ashtoreth. El and Ashtoreth come together and they have a little baby god called Baal. Baal is in Canaanite religion over fertility, the rain, the water, agriculture. They worship him. And Moses says, they want your sons and daughters over there. There's only one way that you can live in a land and succeed in a land like Canaan, which, remember, what is Canaan? The highway. It's the highway that everybody wants. It's like the internet today. Whoever dominates the internet and is successful at the internet will change our culture. But there's a lot of danger on the internet, isn't there? There's a lot of danger. You can lose your life on the internet. And he said, if you're going to go over there and live, you have to know that they sacrifice their children. Can you imagine a culture that would sacrifice children? Isn't that barbaric? They had a god called Moloch with large outstretched arms with coals in them, and they would take their children who were newly born and they would lay them screaming in the coals to sacrifice. These are the people they're going over to meet and they're going to do battle with. And Moses says, do not let them marry your daughters. If you're going to be successful, you're going to have to, and here's the key, Deuteronomy 6, teach your children. That's the key. The key to living in a foreign culture is you're going to have to teach your children, and Moses says in Deuteronomy 6 and verse 4, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And when you go over there, he says in verse 7, you shall teach these words diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontals between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. It's the Word of God being taught to your children to be faithful to Yahweh. The big question, did they do it? And if they didn't do it, what are the consequences? We'll learn that in our next session. But I want to leave you in this session with this question. Are you teaching your children in today's culture, or are you just letting them go out there on their own to try to figure it out? You must teach your children if you want to be successful. God bless.